All right, guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Let's Assess. So today is going to be a very valuable episode for those of you that are kind of new to the sport or really new to the sport, and you're trying to figure out how this whole snowmobiling thing works. So we're going to take you from pre-ride to during ride to post-ride, everything that you need to know to stay safe and legal and have a good first experience. So we're assuming that you guys have a snowmobiling gear. We've covered that in other episodes, so go check those out if you haven't. But we are going to be talking about what you need to do to be safe and have fun.
Look, I don't want to talk. How you try and press the kid and read it, you was soft.
All right, guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Let's Assess. So we're going to hop right into it. So again, assuming you have gear and assuming you have a snowmobile, this is kind of what your first day on the snow should look like. We're going to kind of take you through the X's and O's, just the basic stuff on what you need to be doing. So first thing, you need to have registration.
Yeah, and that's depending upon whether you are riding in Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, etc. Whatever state you are in, each one has their own registration. So if it's an out-of-state registration or it's the state that you live in and you need a registration in that state, just make sure you have a registration for the state you are riding in. That way you don't get to the parking lot and there's a forest ranger there or a game warden there or a park ranger there that is going to write you a ticket for one or not let you out on the snow for that day.
Yeah, so these are state specific. Remember that, guys. So if you have one for Colorado, that doesn't always apply to you or doesn't apply to Utah or whatever.
Next thing is make sure that you have your fuel and your oil in your sled. Make sure your sled is fueled up completely. Different sleds take different types of fuel. Generally, 91 octane is what you need in a lot of these snowmobiles nowadays. Even for the older ones, 91 octane you are safe with. Whether you want non-ethanol or with ethanol, or if you're riding a sled that requires avgas, most likely if you're running a sled with avgas, you will know that it needs avgas. But if it's a pretty well stock or even a little bit, modded aftermarket stuff, 91 octane is usually your answer. Even these factory turbos run 91 octane.
Yeah, and if you don't know what your sled takes, I would always go to the dealer, ask them if you bought it from them, ask them what fuel it takes. Same thing with oil. Don't put the wrong oil in it. If you bought a new sled, make sure you're using the right oil. Sometimes that can void warranties and stuff like that.
Yep.
So make sure you're using both the correct oil and gas, and make sure that they're plumb full. A lot of things I see in snowmobiling, they're like, well, it has a quarter tank of oil. Well, snowmobiles burn. You got to remember they're two strokes. They burn through more oil than like a dirt bike or a four-wheeler would. So my recommendation is every single time that you go out on the mountain, gas needs to be 100% filled and oil needs to be 100% filled, because you never, ever know what's going to happen.
Yep. Another thing that happens with that oil, if it's half full or better, you're usually good. But if you are on that lower end of the tank and you're going up a hill, sometimes that oil will get sloshed around enough in that tank that it's not really providing enough to service your engine. And same goes for if you have to roll it over and a little leaks out the lid or it coats the whole entire tank, etc. Just a full tank of oil and a full tank of gas and you'll have a much better experience.
Yep. So now finding a place.
Yeah. Next is getting to the mountain. So,
well, and before we talk about, a lot of people have questions like, where should I snowmobile? One of the things I say to that is there's a couple different resources that you can use. You can use stuff like Onyx, Backcountry or whatever, and find stuff that way. What I always do is go face to face and talk to locals. If you're getting into it in your hometown, go to your dealer. Your dealer's a great resource. Go to the Chamber of Commerce. Go to, your city hall, whatever. They're going to know what the general zones are. They're not going to tell you like honey holes and stuff probably, but they'll point you in the right direction, go to this mountain range.
At least in the direction of a parking lot.
Yeah. So you want to get to a parking lot, obviously.
Yep. And same direction of that line of thinking is Snowmobile Club. There's a lot of snowmobile clubs out there. It's one of those things that's kind of dying off, but they're a great resource. They're the ones that do the trails, trail markers, etc. Look for a local trail club. A lot of them have a website or a Facebook page. You can even get to them there. Another resource is just different areas like they might have a Facebook group, like local snowmobilers might have a Facebook group in that area. You could ask on that as well.
Yeah, and find people to ride with. You always need to go with somebody. So now that you have an idea where you're going to go and you have oil and gas in your sled, now you need to get to the mountain. So that can consist of a few different things.
First up, before you head to the mountain, you need to make sure you're loaded up properly. You got your back door shut. I've seen people go down the road with their door open before.
On their trailers.
Yeah,
so it's depending on what you're taking.
Yeah, it depends what you're running a sled deck at the bed of your truck, trailer, whatever. Just make sure that you're hooked up properly if it's a trailer, or even if it's a sled deck, that your sled deck's anchored down properly. Make sure your sled, if it's on a sled deck or in the bed of your truck, you're tied down or on it. And if you're in a trailer, make sure you set your brake, or if you do want to tie down in your trailer, tie down in your trailer, and make sure you're shut up good. And then make sure your trailer's hooked to your truck properly. And then you also just want to make sure that, like, now preseason, get thinking, like, make sure your wheel bearings are good on your trailer. Make sure your tire pressure is good on your trailer. Make sure your tires are good. They're not about to blow.
Make sure
your
it's
lights
licensed.
work. Yeah, and that's a good one. Make sure that it's, your license plate's current and you're good to go that way.
Yeah, so the thing is a lot of people, if you're going to haul it in the bed of your truck, maybe you don't know how to load it efficiently, go look on YouTube. There's a ton of videos, or reach out to us. We can shoot a video on it. But make sure that you go out and know what you're doing. If you have a trailer that tilts, learn how to load that. If you have a trailer that has tie downs or super clamps, learn how to use that. All of these things you need to know how to use so your sled doesn't fall off going down the highway.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
that's
Seen that too.
Yeah. So now you have gotten to the mountain. This can be kind of intimidating for some people, especially in huge lots. What is like parking lot etiquette? So the thing that I would say is go slow, be respectful of other people, and do not block anyone off. That's probably my number one pet peeve, is when some jackass goes out in the middle of the lot and takes up the entire lot with one trailer and one truck.
Yep.
So park in the tightest spot you can. Think about kind of the flow of traffic and how people are going to move through the lot, and don't park in front of them or don't block one of the runways or whatever. That's what I'd recommend.
And if you're a guy with just a pickup to where you're in the bed, or you're a guy with a pickup and a sled deck, don't forget about that there are other people that are going to be pulling trailers in there, and think about them when they pull in there, if they're going to be able to get turned around. That's one of the worst things, pulling a trailer into some of these parking lots, is you get there and then you can't get spun around. It's a royal pain to get spun around. So
yeah. And that brings up another topic. You need to make sure, there's some places now, I know for a fact, you cannot pull trailers into certain lots.
Yep.
Because there's so many people starting to get into the sport. They don't have the bandwidth to, have all the people in one lot. So they say no trailers, you got to have a sled deck or put it in the bed of your truck. And that's just to be able to fit more people. But make sure that you check that before you go. Most people won't have an issue with that.
Absolutely. And also kind of along the lines of being prepared to go to the parking lot, make sure that maybe you have a set of tire chains in your pickup, because sometimes these parking lots aren't always plowed. They're not the main priority for these municipalities to get plowed. So most likely if it snowed and you're headed riding, it's not going to be the best conditions to get in and out of that parking lot. And if you're going up on a mountain for a parking lot, it's going to be deep. If you're going to ride somewhere, like I'm going to use Rabbit Ears for our reference here in Colorado where we're at, you drive on top of the mountain and then you ride from there and you're pretty well on top. So it's nothing for that parking lot to have 2 or 3 feet of snow in it.
Yeah.
And then you're pretty well screwed driving in there if you got bad tires or anything like that. So
Yep. So now you're ready to unload your sled. So
let's kind of get into etiquette a little bit more. Just like when you unload your sled, make sure that when you unload, you're tight to your vehicle or your trailer. You're not, big in the parking lot to where when other people come in and out, they can still get in and out. Don't warm up your sled riding up and down the road, screaming up and down the parking lot or whatever. Let it sit there and idle, warm up, and I don't know, just be respectful of others. Don't do anything that you wouldn't want others doing next to you.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay, so you're in the lot. Now you got to unload your sled. So this can be kind of tricky if you don't, like, for example, if you're in the back of a truck and you don't have the right ramp or whatever, it can get kind of a rodeo. So one of the things, if you're in a truck, back up to a snowbank and unload your sled out of there and then park your truck. That's a helpful tip. But make sure that your ramp is secured on either your trailer or your bed of your truck or on your sled deck, Because I've seen a lot of people go to unload and get a little bit rodeoed.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, especially because when you're backing off and your track is spinning, it's wanting to stand that ramp up. And once your track goes to it and there's that time that your skis aren't hitting it and the track's pulling your ramp up, if it's not secured tight, sometimes it'll suck them up. And then next thing you know, your skis are under the ramp and then you're really in a predicament.
Yeah. So that's kind of, it's not super complex, but just make sure you know how to tilt your trailer back. If it's a tilt trailer, whatever, just make sure you know all that and think about that.
Take your time doing it. That's the biggest thing. Just take your time. And then also you're going to start, you know, once you got your sled unloaded, you're going to be gearing up for the day. Make sure you've got all your stuff for the day. You got your tunnel bag on, you got your water in your bag, you've got your lunch on the bag, food. Be prepared to spend the night. Make sure you got all your survival stuff. Make sure you got fire starter. Make sure you got, you know, sufficient water to be out there all day. Some sort of your phone or some sort of map system or GPS, I guess.
Or physical map.
Or a physical map, yep.
So, yeah, that's super important.
Yeah, just make sure you got all your stuff. I mean, we're not going to break into all that stuff, but just make sure everything that you need to go ride, that you have it in a way in your pickup, or when you leave the house, you know you needed all that stuff. Make sure you have it all in a place where you're not going to forget it in your truck, where you get up there and like, oh, I forgot my avalanche beacon today or something. You know? Just have a good system to make sure everything goes with you when you leave.
Yep.
Before you pull off on your snowmobile, so your sled, it's super crucial to warm your sled up before you take off running down the trail. I've seen this many, many times. People will cold seize a snowmobile. They'll unload their sled, they'll park it, they'll load up, they'll hop on it, and they'll just start ripping down the trail. And I'm going to break it down for you guys just real quick. Your engine gets warm, right? And then the thermostat opens, and then all that liquid that is in your tunnel, because they're liquid cooled machines, all that coolant, most of them, all that coolant has been getting hit by snow. So it is super cold and it hasn't got any heat yet. So what it does is, let's say it's 20 degrees outside. Your coolant's 20 degrees in your tunnel. Your engine's 100 degrees. That thermostat opens. That cold water hits that aluminum in that engine, and then it clamps down and your piston's still hot and it'll seize your engine right there. You'll just squeak it. So make sure you let your sled sit there and idle and get to temperature. Generally, every thermostat's open by 100 degrees. Some of them are at 90. But if you let it idle to 100 degrees before you take off, you will be safe. So idle, let it warm up, put your ice scratchers down.
That's huge.
Yeah. If you don't know what ice scratchers are, there's YouTube videos about it, I'm sure. But we'll kind of talk about it here. It's on the skid frame. So where the track is at, there's little bars
on the bottom rail.
They're on the bottom rail, and they'll flip off in some way, and they'll act like little training wheels that kick down. And what they do is they break up the hard snow on trails, or if it's icy, they throw just enough into your track to then cool your sled. Sometimes it's enough, sometimes it's not, depending upon snow conditions. If there's fresh snow, usually you're good. This is a key thing for keeping your engine cool and keeping your track cool. People forget about going really fast down the trail. Your track gets extreme heat with that, just the friction from being on the rails. So that heat will delaminate that rubber. You'll lose paddles, your track will fall apart, etc. So those ice scratchers help keep your track cool and keep your engine cool. The paddles are so deep now that the snow, even if you got 2 or 3 inches of fresh, it might not be enough to be hitting the bottom of the track. It might just be within the paddle to where it's not even cooling the belt of the track itself. And you want to be sure and watch the temperature gauge on your snowmobile. Make sure that before you leave the parking lot, it's on your temperature gauge, your engine temperature, not your exhaust temperature, engine temperature. And you just want to keep an eye on that. A lot of your snowmobiles are going to ride around 100 degrees Fahrenheit. If it's running more than that, I would say you're safe to about 120. You need to look at your sled specific. I'm talking on a lot of newer sleds here. That's been my experience, is I'll run them up to about 120, and then I want to get them cooled down. I'll hop off the trail into fresh snow or lean it on its side and cool it down.
Yeah, mine run at 120 about, even in deep snow, mine do.
And turbos are a little bit different than NAs. So they're going to run little bit hotter than that.
So
I'd say
mine
they're probably
up
like
to about
120.
150. I don't worry about it too much.
Yep.
But
And obviously they have a light that comes on when they're too hot, or they'll start beeping at you and all that stuff. But be aware of that temperature. If it is doing that, you need to get it cooled down, or you need to get it shut off and let it cool down just by sitting there.
Yep. So now navigating the trail, I would always recommend beginners to like stay on somewhat of the main trail, just so if you get stuck or whatever, you have traffic going up and down, and it's easier to navigate. If you take, a left here and a right here and a left here and a right here, and you don't have a map and you don't have GPS, then you can get kind of into a sticky situation. So I would recommend your first time out, first couple, maybe just go down the main trail. You need to have some sort of navigation, whether that's Onyx on your phone. Keep your phone in a warm pocket. If you have a GPS device like a Garmin, if you have Ride Command on your Polaris, if you have a physical map, if you're taking pictures of the maps on the trail, just some sort of way to help you navigate through it. Because when snowstorms set in, especially in the mountains and everything looks white with pine trees, you can get turned around really, really easy. So make sure you have that. Make sure on the scratcher subject, before you, on most snowmobiles, on the newer ones, this isn't true, but on most snowmobiles, you cannot go in reverse with your scratchers, and I would not load them with scratchers down. So it's only when you're going forward on the trail. Otherwise, you need to put them up to go backwards or load them.
Yep. And if you're hopping on and off the trail, so say you leave the parking lot, you go up, you're riding on the mountain. Once you hop off the trail and you're riding in deeper snow for the most part of the day, you just want to put those up just in case you're climbing up a hill and you slightly roll backwards. It doesn't break them off. A lot of them ones, especially BRP and all new 2024 Polarises now, you can back up over them. I know Etiquettes you can back over as well. They kind of pop out. But it's one of those things that it's not worth breaking because it might make your trip back down to the truck not enjoyable. So as soon as you get to where your sled's going to stay cool, put your ice scratchers up and enjoy the day. And then just like Brent said, as soon as you get back down to the parking lot, it's my habit now, before I even take my helmet off, you put your ice scratchers up. Yep. Because like you said, you load it on your ramp and you kind of roll backwards, or they click on your ramp, it will break them. They're a very high tensile strength steel, and they're a spring essentially. So you need to make sure they're not getting abused. They are a crucial part to keeping the snowmobile cool.
Yep. So now you've had a great day on the snow. You saw a bunch of cool terrain. You've gotten better. It was your first time out, second time out, third time out, whatever. You head back to the lot. Once you get back to the lot, it's pretty self-explanatory, but get your snowmobile back on whatever you brought it there with and make sure it's tied down, whether you have ski clamps or a tie-down strap or whatever. A lot of people get tired and they forget to strap their stuff down and then it falls off. So make sure that it's strapped down. When you get home, make sure, this is what I always do, this is my preference, pull it into the garage, open all the side panels out, let it dry out, check your oil level. I always fill it with oil normally right after I get home. Take the cover off if you're hauling on an outdoor trailer. Just let it dry out. And then when it warms up, I always like to go in and check my drive belt tension, my track tension. Again, fill it with oil. Make sure everything's good for the next time out. And then you just do the same thing over and over again, and you get better and better.
Yep. A couple of things on that for me, just like, because you get back to the truck, you are tired, you're forgetful on things. Make sure you got all your stuff picked up there in the parking lot. Make sure you didn't leave your phone on the tire of your pickup. Make sure you didn't leave your sunglasses in your sled if you need them. Just the little things that you forget when you're tired. And yeah, like he hit a major one there. Make sure your stuff's tied down and you're ready to go down the road. And then same as Brent, I like to get my sled back in somewhere warm, check it over, make sure it's ready again. And I'm big on, if I go riding, when I come back through town or wherever, I fuel and then oil. That way I'm ready to go ride again. That way when I go to ride again, I know I'm ready to ride again. I don't have to be like, oh, I'm rushed in the morning, the guys are waiting on me, I forgot to get fuel or I forgot to get oil. If you're prepared after you're done riding, then you'll never forget that stuff.
Yeah. So hopefully this brought you guys a lot of value, that some lower level stuff that I think, a lot of content guys overlook. I think that there's a lot of people out in the sport that are getting into it now and they want to know, the basic stuff. This, I think, can help a lot of people when it comes to what is your day on the snow going to look like and what do I need to do that successfully. These are some big steps that we recommend. But keep listening and tuning in every week because we're coming out with a lot of tips for beginners to advanced riders. So just if you guys would subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and we'll put our tags in the YouTube video. Thank you guys, and if you're good, AJ, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you guys. And yeah, like Brent said, like, subscribe, comment, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. And we're loving the support. Thank you all that are listening and watching, and we appreciate every single one of you. So thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, guys. Until next time, let her eat.